Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Oh Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha, Jaya Giridharadhari, Jaya Giridharadhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha, Jaya Giridharadhari, Jaya Giridharadhari, Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana,
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana,
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana,
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana,
Yamuna Tira Vanachari,
Yamuna Tira
Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari,
Yamuna Tira
Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Oh Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Sati Nandan, Jaya Gaura Hare, Sati Nandan, Jaya Gaura Hare, Jaya Sati Nandan, Jaya Gaura Hare, Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe, Jaya Radha, Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Oh Jaya Vrindavan Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrindavan Nandini Radhe Radhe, Jaya Vrindavan Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrindavan Nandini Radhe Radhe. Oh Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Ganhavika Giridhare Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai Sachinandana Gauda Hari Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazarashi Shimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazarashi Shimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazarashi Shimad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazarashi Shimad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Mahabhagavat Shila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Saptam Goswami Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Arupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Gauda Premanande Hari Hari Bol Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaya Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Prabhajantamanapaityam Apaitti Krityam Dvaipayino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tammayatayottarago Vinidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Anapita Chirim Chirat Kuranavartino Kalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujjvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundarata Dikatamba Sadipita Sadharadare Kandare Spadatu Vasachinandanaha Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadita Rangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Baradram Tato Mamanasti Katyena Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naimam Charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishna Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again unto our beloved Nitya Leela Pravishna Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And the same again unto our beloved Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gauda Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nuga Varayate. And all our divine Rupa Nuga Guru Vargya and all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Dandavats. Hare Krishna. Sound is okay? So, coming to our Jaiva Dharma and the first 5 verses of the Falshruti we'll do. Even though we've done them so many times, I personally feel that they're ever fresh. So I hope the listeners all feel the same way.
पृथ्वीते
Prithivite
यत
yata
कथ
kata
धर्म
dharma
नाम
nama
चले
chale
भागवत
bhagavata
कहे
kahe
सब
sabu
परिपूर्ण
paripurna
चले.
chale.
As indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, second shloka.
Dharma projita kaitavatra parama nirmat saranam shatam. This is the verse he's saying. There is no envy near matsaranam. Matsaranam means envy. So near matsaranam, there's no envy in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's stating it very clearly. And it's the same. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the greatest lover of Srimad Bhagavatam. He wrote so many articles on Srimad Bhagavatam. He wrote the Bhagavad Akara Mala. He wrote this Krishna Samhita, which is bringing out the four Chatushlokis of the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is like the foundation, basically. So this Granta, this Jaiva Dharma, is like the Bhagavatam in the same sense. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has manifested with that same mood to be completely all-inclusive of all truths, without any envy, because that's the nature of the material world. So no material um, consideration throughout.
All the philosophies on earth that are celebrated as dharma are utterly deceptive.
Hmm.
Chala
Chale
dharma
dharma
chali
chade
tare
satya dharma mate
nati
chatuvargya
chaturvarga tyaji
tyaji dharma
dharma
nitya
nitya
prema
prema
gati.
gati. One should completely abandon such deceptive dharmas and observe his mind in true dharma. In other words, one should give up the fourfold goals of material life, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and aspire solely for the ultimate destination of Nitya Prem.
So we've discussed a few times how even Vedavyas had to reorientate his focus when he had his darshan with Narad, his spiritual master, and realized that the karma kand and gyan kand principles that he'd been propagating mostly in the previous Puranas, etc., and in the Vedas that he'd divided, it was advocating the liberated condition as being the Purusartha, the principal Purusartha, Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha, this moksha. But when he had the trance gifted to him by Narad, then he understood the fifth Purusartha, which is a remarkable consideration to actually have a relationship, a loving relationship with Krishna, not just in awe and veneration. It's a huge quantum leap, really, when we consider it. We discussed previously the Vaikuntha Bhav in relationship to Vaidhi Bhav. And I read some verses how those great sadhaks who are serving so beautifully the Lord, but they're holding on to his feet, praying for mercy to his feet. They're not praying for the relationship with Krishna on a very intimate level. So this, in this Kali Yuga, we have this door open. It's inconceivable. Really, we should appreciate the rarity of that. It's real, and it's only by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself. Krishna himself wants to taste the moods of Sri Radhika, this Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrishoganaiva, Swadyena Dvuta Madhurima Kidrishoganaiva, Sokyam Kasyam Mad Anubhavita Kidrisham Vetiloba, Tadbhavadya Samajani, Sachigarabo Sindhu Harindu. This is what he wanted to taste, prema. But he wanted to give us Ragmarg Bhakti Loke. This is exceptional. Daily, we should just appreciate this phenomena because historically, this Nitya Prem was not available for people like us. Even the Shastras were all locked in Sanskrit. It's only by the mercy of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, principally, who took it out of the Sanskrit into the Bengali vernacular, and then that was translated into Hindi, etc., and now even English formal lectures. So our fortune is just breathtaking, really and truly. And we should appreciate when we consider this fortune, then how rare and confidential this path is. It's not to be taken lightly. We're going to discuss today the different types of kubhav, the different types of bhav that are not bhav, pratibimba bhav and chaya bhav. And these are false abhas of bhav. So all of these considerations are discussed in Jaiva Dharma. Did you finish reading?
Yes.
Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha, and aspire solely for ultimate
Our
destination.
destination of Nitya Prem.
Amitva mimam sabrame
Saprame
nija
nija
jada
jada
buddhi
buddhi
nirvishesha
nirvishesha
brahma
brahma
gyani
gyani
nahi
nahi
chara
chita
sudhi.
shuddhi. Those who are deluded identify themselves with matter. That is their error. However, one cannot be purified of such delusion by endeavors for Nirvishesh Brahmagyan.
Because nirvishesh brahma gyani is the alternative to Krishna prema for someone who wants to take their spiritual life seriously. And we see in the world around us that spiritual societies and so on, they claim to be spiritual societies, but if they don't have Krishna at the center, then they're only focusing on moksha and mukti. This is what all these groups are focusing on. Feeling liberated, shantaras, feeling this well-being. This is all nirvishesh Brahm. It's only those bhaktas who have Krishna as the objective that this prem, it exists outside of us, so to speak. It's about us because we're expressing our attraction and affection for us. But the object of our affection is outside of us. It's not that Brahmagyan inside. We have to, these are big topics.
Hmm.
We're going very fast through them, but really they're like universes. We've been stuck. What's that? Brahman Konya Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasad Hoy Bhakti Lata Bij. We've been going up and down through so many different Brahmans for so many years, so many lifetimes rather, searching. And now we're understanding there is an object, an attractive object, not just one object, but there's the whole backdrop of Vrindavan Dham also, all his parikas, etc. There's so much opportunity to focus outside of this conception of Brahmagyan. So it's a big leap, in fact. But we can only do this with the empowerment of this Hare Krishna mantra, and that will give us the sobriety. It'll bring the intoxication of this material world down because we're all intoxicated with thinking I'm going to get pleasure from the material world in one way or another. And we have to always be ruthlessly honest with ourselves and examine how am I struggling to actually get some juice for myself. This is not bhakti. Bhakti is with subject and object.
Vichitrata hina hore nirvishesha hoy, kala saimatulya seya aprakrita nai. The Mayavadi thinks Sri Krishna to be subject to the limitations of time, such as birth and death, and considers that he is not transcendental.
Yes. Who is the Mayavad? We've said many times. I am the Mayavad. If I want to enjoy Maya, if I want to enjoy matter, if I'm on the bodily platform squarely and I'm thinking there's some pleasure for my body in this world, in a million different ways and forms, the mind is fantastic at making up different material desires, so many material desires, unlimited material desires. We have to get the attraction outside of this mental quantum. And it's relatively simple. We simply have to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to hear Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have to hear Jaiva Dharma, we have to be in the company of devotees, and we have to be chanting Hare Krishna. And then we will become soaked in the impressions of the transcendental reality. And gradually, the attraction of that is going to completely eclipse anything of this material nature left. And a taste will come, param drisvara nivartante. This higher taste will come. And then we'll leave all these petty material desires. We should start to consider how foolish they are. How foolish are my material desires? If I want to do anything in this realm, it's all naimitika. It's all temporary. The body is temporary. We don't, we don't do it. We still, this is how strong is Maya. Pray to Lord Nrsingadev. Pray to all our preceptors to please give me the vision beyond this material world. Jaiva Dharma does that. Yes, thus he rejects.
Thus, he rejects Sri Bhagavan's Vichitrata, astonishing characteristics, paraphernalia, qualities, and Leela.
How tragic. His astonishing characteristics, lifting up Govardhan Hill, killing this demon Putana when he's 3 days old, just by sucking out her life air from her body, killing Trinavrata, that whirlwind. These were massive demons, really, really massive demons. Shakatasura, Bakasura, Agasura, Kaliya, this snake, venomous snake with so many hoods, etc. But Krishna was merciful to Kaliya. He simply purified his sinful nature because of the prayers of the Nagapatnis, because of the prayers of his wives, the devotees. Krishna is always submissive to the prayers of his devotees. So we've got two sides every time. We've got the vicious, um, horrifying demons, and we've got Krishna's immense, soft nature. It's phenomenal. These are phenomenal considerations for us. Yes.
Through this vicious attempt, he is left with the philosophy of Nirvishesh Brahm.
That's all the Mayavad is left with. Nothing but that. Kanda
Kandagyana
Gyana Hoya
hai
Dharma
dharma
Ache
ache
Sunishchaya
sunishchaya,
Prakriti
prakrita hai le
Hile
kabu
Habu
aprakrita.
Aprakrtanaya.
Such base and contemptible gyan, which arises out of an attempt to dismember the divine form of Bhagavan, is only fit to be rejected. It is prakrita, materialistic, and should never be given credence as aprakrita dharma.
One who doesn't understand Sambandha Gyan, then he will fall prey to these illusory states. If you understand Sambandha Gyan, if you understand the immensity and beauty and speciality, the Vaishistya of Krishna, and we learn this through Shastra, but we also, by our practice, will have some type of realization. The very first time we ever chanted Hare Krishna, there must have been some realization in the consciousness to keep going with it. You wouldn't be doing it all the time if it wasn't giving something tangible, some experiential connection. Why should we bother to do it if we don't think it's real? Of course it's real. And it gets more real the deeper we actually progress in our study and our absorption in Nam. It's a most wonderful. Susukam Avyakta, what is it? Avyaktavam. That the ninth, first verse, second verse of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam
Guhyam
Pavitram Etamutamam
Mutanam.
Pratyakshavagam Dharmam
Sus-
Susukam Dharmam Avyakta. I forgot the last word. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam. You can't get it quickly? Okay. So we'll come back to our study here. I'll look it up myself. Raja Vidya. These Bhagavad Gita verses are extraordinary.
It's not there in this.
Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Habitram Etamuttamam. Susukam Kartam Avyayam. This is the verse. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Habitram Etamuttamam. Pratyakshavakam Dharmam Susukam Kartam
Kartam Avyayam.
Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization. We get direct realization. It is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. This was the line that I wanted to stress. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. Susukam Kartam
Avyayam.
Avyayam. 9:2 Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so yesterday And the day before, we were recapping this Bhav Bhakti chapter because it's like the pinnacle of our Dasmula journey. We've come to discuss Bhav Bhakti, which is the highest conception that the jiva in the conditioned state can attain. We cannot attain prem, as we've said many times, but bhav bhakti is within our grasp. If we follow very carefully through shraddha, anartha nivriti, nishta, ruchi, asakti, and bhav, we can come to this platform of bhav bhakti. So now what is bhav bhakti? This is what's being discussed, and we heard the symptoms. But we also, prior to that, we heard that there are two types of bhav and how they arise. There is this sadhana,
Sadhana
abhinivesh
Bhava.
chabhav, that by our performance of focused, careful sadhana, then this bhav can be bestowed. Vidimad rata jane, swadinata ratna jane, that Krishna will bestow the independence of Raganuga Bhakti on that sadhak who is following perfectly the principles of Vaidhi Bhakti. But that means that while we're following the principles of Vaidhi Bhakti, internally we are focused on Raganuga. From this day onwards, as soon as we hear about this topic, we begin to focus on the path of Ragmarg. But externally, we are always following for our whole life the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, carefully worshipping Thakurji, following Ekadashi, all of these principal 64 angas we follow very, very closely externally, but internally, we have to be solidly focused. That means it has to be refreshed regularly. It has to be refreshed by different shastras. For example, Bhajan Rahasya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes through the 8 yamas of the day. What is Krishna doing every moment of the day? What are his engagements? This Astakalya Lila. Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks so many beautiful verses in that Bhajan Rahasya. And he also writes this beautiful book, this Navadvip Bhav Taranga. This is what I'm going to discuss a little bit today. This Navadvip Bhav Taranga, the Bhavs of Navadvip, because that'll be discussed where we're going to read today. So two types. There's this sadhana abhinivesh chabhav, comes from our sadhana, and prasad chabhav comes from the direct mercy. And we had three examples of this. We had the examples of there are in three ways by words, vachika, by granting a vision, alok,
Loka,
dan,
Dan,
and by grace, harda. These three um, aspects of mercy are bestowed to produce the uh,
Prasad
prasad
Java.
chabhav. And these examples are here of it's saying Jiva Goswami is one. Many bhaktas during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just by his darshan, experienced this bhav rising. So, but this is very rare. This is not what the general sadhak should be depending on. We should be depending on our own, invoking the creeper of Krishna by the strength of our sincere sadhan bhajan, abhinivesh chabhav,
Sadhan
this path. And then we discussed yesterday the qualities, or rather the symptoms
of
of bhav.
Bhav.
If these symptoms arise, and what is the purpose of hearing about these symptoms? The purpose is to become inspired by these symptoms and to appreciate the nature of Bhav Bhakti. It contains these 9 symptoms, that person who is experiencing that Bhav. So we can emulate, we can aspire to become more tolerant, to become more focused, to become detached, free from pride. This bound by hope, Ashabandha. This is a beautiful expression, really inspiring for the sadhaks. Utkanta, deep, deep longing. We can get inspiration for this deep longing specifically from Narottam Das in his Pratana. He writes so many prayers about longing for that. Prabodhananda Saraswati also writes beautiful prayers about longing to remain in Vrindavan Dham and the beauty of Vrindavan Dham. So there are specific books that we can look at to take inspiration in these different symptoms. Namagana Siddharuchi, taste to always chant Sri Harinam. How will you get a taste for chanting Harinam? By doing it, not by talking about it, but by doing it. All of these symptoms can be manifested by performing it. Try to schedule your day so you can chant sufficient Harinam to know that you're really progressing each day. And the more progress you make, the more you will want to chant, because you will be aware of the power of the um, inspiration in consciousness when we do chant, guiding us to, and we have to guide the wayward mind while we're chanting. It's like the chanting will give us a lot of power. It's exactly like I often give the example, like filling a car with petrol to drive it is like chanting. You're filling, but where are you going to drive the car once you've got a full tank? You've got to know the direction. This is why we're reading Jaiva Dharma. You've got to know where you're going to drive your fully inspired consciousness to. So therefore, we have to guide it according to Sambandha Gyan, according to Abhideya, and according to the Prayojan Tattva, according to these three principles. This is called Tattva Vichar. We have to understand this, and then it'll come to the palace of Rasa by that following carefully of the Tattva. So we read through so much of these symptoms, and now we come on page 512. So just read this verse at the top of 512 of Babaji. It is said in Sri Krishna Karunamrita,
माधुर्याद् अपि मधुरं मन्मथता तस्य किम् अपि कैशोरं चापल्याद् अपि चापलं चेतो बत हरति हान्त किं कूर्मः.
Sri Krishna is the transcendental Cupid, Manmata, is sweeter than the most sweet, and his adolescence is more restless than the most restless thing. The qualities of that transcendental Cupid, which defy description, are stealing my mind. Alas, what shall I do now? This Kim Kurma is like
कुर्मः.
the kinkaries. It comes from this word, kinkari. Kinkari are the maidservants of Sri Radhika. What does kinkari mean? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do to please you? What service can I do? This is what the gopis are always thinking. They're only thinking one thing: how to pacify Krishna's calm. Krishna has transcendental calm, and the gopis have they are the instruments of being able to satisfy that calm, manifested directly from Sri Radhika, Akaya Vyuha, specifically for this seva. So we're always thinking how to please Krishna in that mood, the same mood as the king. What can I do for Krishna? What can I do? And if we're under guidance of the Mahabhagavat, those Rasik, Tattvavit gurus, they are already in their uppercut forms of Manjari mood, and they will inspire us into Vrindavan as maidservants of Sri Radhika. Practically, so many of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajans and songs are indicating this same conception to become a Palyadasi of Sri Radhika. Narottam is saying the same. So many personalities are pointing in this direction. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. We have to separate ourselves somewhat from the Vaidhi stream, which is constantly. But even if we hear beautiful discussions on Bhagavad Gita, if your focus is on Raganuga, you will still get so much out of that. I listen to Prabhupada most days, and I get so much attraction for Vrindavan just by listening to any conception he wants to take. Because if this focus is solid within the mind, then whatever we hear is going to be leading in that direction. Nothing is going to be separate from that, because that's our heart's desire. So now I'll read here. No matter how much one hears about Sri Krishna's qualities, this is the quality of uh,
Longing.
Ashaktis Tatgunakine, attachment to descriptions of the transcendental qualities of Krishna. This is where we're going to read about now. No matter how much one hears about Sri Krishna's qualities, one never becomes satiated. The attachment to hearing goes on increasing incessantly. and one never stops wishing to hear more and more. It's just like when we read our Srimad Bhagavatam. It just go. We have um, classes with maybe 10 people on the um, connection, and they're all speaking on the same chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam every week. And every single person who speaks differently. No two are the same at all. They bring out some points, obviously, that are similar, but in principle, all 10 individuals have their 10 separate appreciations of the chapter. So that by the time you've listened to 10 presentations, you're getting such an extraordinary variety of understandings of the single chapter. And it goes on and on and on and on. The more you want to churn this Srimad Bhagavatam, the deeper and deeper and deeper it will go. We pray to be in company of those serious sadhaks who really want to churn the Shastras for the principle of inspiring their devotion to Krishna. Nothing less than this. Not to inspire my gyan, the illumination of gyan, because that can be a trick, that we want to increase our understanding of bhakti rather than our experience of bhakti. A jnani will have so much understanding, but a devotee will have so much experience. We want to become relishers of bhakti, not gyan. The attachment to hearing goes on increasing incessantly, and one never stops wishing to hear more and more. Vijay, what is tad vishate stale priti? Affection for the places of Krishna's pastimes. So now this is the final symptom of bhav. When a bhakta performs parikram of Sri Navadvip Dham, he inquires as follows: O residents of the Dham, where is the birthplace of the dearmost master of my life? In which direction would Mahaprabhu's kirtan party pass? Please tell me where our master used to perform his forenoon pastimes with the Gopas. The residents of the Dham reply, this place where you are standing is Sri Mayapur. The elevated place that you see directly in front of us, surrounded by the grove of tulsi plants, is the very place where the most precious appearance of Sriman Mahaprabhu took place. Just see the villages of Ganganaga, Sumulya, Gadagachi, Majida, and others. Sriman Mahaprabhu's first Sankirtan party passed through these very villages. Hearing such sweet talks, saturated with prem from the mouths of the residents of Gouda, his body thrills with horripilation. His heart becomes overwhelmed with bliss, and tears trickle from his eyes. In this way, he performs parikram of all Mahaprabhu's pastimes places. This is called affection for the places where the Lord performed his pastimes. Tad Vishate Stale Priti. And just to support this, there is this beautiful book, Navadvip Bhav Taranga. Doesn't cost anything hardly, but it's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's personal ecstasies going to each of these holy places. It's his mystical vision of each of these holy places. It's very confidential book. It's a very beautiful book, and it's certainly available everywhere. Navadvip Bhav Taranga, and it's very precious for the devotees. It's exactly in line with this description, what we've just read. It goes to Nrsimhapali, for example, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing himself rolling on the ground in ecstasy. So grateful to be in the darshan of Nrsimhadev, and much glorification of all these different personalities. This is very, very powerful. Mahaprabhu is the Yuga avatar. Krishna's pastimes are all revealed very easily because they've been manifest for 5,000 years. When you go to Vrindavan, you see Giriraj Govardhan, you see Varshana, you see Nandagan, you see all the different places, Terkadamba, etc. But in Navadvip Dham, they're still very much hidden. This is Gupta Vrindavan. They're hidden, but they are there. Don't think that they're not there. The more we think about these pastimes, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur did, he lived here and he was meditating constantly on Vrindavan and revealing the beauty and speciality of Goradam. Just up the road is Swananda Sukada Kunj. Here is Surabhi Kunj. where Surabhi resided. So all of these places, this is actually Nandagan, because there's Nandishwara is the Shiva Lingam in Swananda Sukhadakunj. So all these places are very close by for our meditation and absorption. This is what is going to purify our contaminated consciousness and bring us solidly to this place of experiencing these wonderful ecstasies of being in proximity with such powerful um, holy places. This is going to give us directly that, and that will replace the darkness of our various anartas. They, my Gurudev used to describe, like, if you have a clay pot and you want to get all the air out of it, in other words, you want to get all the dirt, filth out of the mind, what do? You pour something in, and automatically the air will go out. So to pour the descriptions of these beautiful holy places into the consciousness, like when we read Navadvip Dharma Mahatmya, this also has the same principle. And we read all the Parikrama book about Vrindavan and all the different holy places. We're pouring in to the consciousness beauty and specialities of Krishna's Leela Stalis. And then automatically the darkness and the miseries that we've been enduring for billions of births will automatically become replaced. And then our focuses will become fixed. And then this Bhav Bhakti will begin to arise. The sun of praying, the ray of the sun of praying will manifest. It will. Um, where are we? Top. Rajanath, should we understand that rati towards Krishna has arisen in every individual in whom we observe this kind of emotion? Very important. People are very tricky. Bhaktivinoda Thakur calls them slippery. This deceptive nature that we have, this pramad, this error, this karana patika, these four defects that the conditioned mind has, and we tend to cheat. Vipralipsa, we cheat. So, should we understand that rati towards Krishna has arisen in every individual in whom we observe this kind of emotion? Babaji, no. Rati is emotion, bhav, that arises spontaneously towards Krishna. It's not in the mental quantum. If it's in the mental quantum, it's sentimental. It's the senses become mental and they experience some type of emotion. Like if you watch a movie or something of that nature, and you might weep, when the heroine is killed or something of that nature. This is all material. It's not for the transcendental object. So therefore, somebody might weep and you might think, oh, he's in a state of bhav or something ridiculous like that. And sometimes devotees who are not advanced and very much on the Kanishta platform want that pratishta, want that glorification from other people due to insecurities in their own lives, because especially in the Western world, our family situations were not always strong and perhaps something was lacking there. So we're hungry for center stage, so to speak. So it takes us away from the focus on Krishna. If we can just put Krishna into this by hearing of all the different pastimes. Did you find those four? What are they? Just read them out.
Brahm, Pramad, Vipralipsa, Karnapata.
Pramad, Vipralipsa, Karnapata.
Brahm, Brahm,
Brahm. Yes, that's it. That was the one.
Brahm, Pramad, Vipralipsa, Karnapatna.
So we should have good notebooks. It's very helpful. In my Jaiva Dharma, I have all the notes written in the back that I want to just immediately put my finger on, that aren't necessarily all in the index. So it's very helpful because Jaiva Dharma is packed with so much special information that is helpful. No, rati is emotion bhav that arises spontaneously towards Krishna. Similarly, emotion may be observed in relation to other objects, but it cannot be called rati. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to talk for some time on this because it's very common The people get misled by this. Rajana, will you kindly give one or two examples to make this subject clear? Babaji, suppose a man desires liberation, but the dry and difficult worship of the Nirvishesh Brahm seems troublesome to him. Then he hears from somewhere that one can very easily attain mukti simply by uttering the names of Bhagavan. For example, Ajamil obtained mukti easily by uttering the name of Narayan. When the man hears this, he becomes overjoyed. As he remembers the power of Sri Nam to give liberation, he becomes agitated with ecstasy, thinking that he will receive liberation easily. Wants to cheat. Cheat himself. He chants Sri Harinam, weeps continuously, and falls down unconscious. In this instance, the name uttered by the sadhak who desires liberation is not Shuddhanam, and the bhav that he displays is not Krishna Rati, Shuddha bhav, because his spontaneous feeling is not dedicated towards Krishna. His main objective is to obtain mukti and not Krishna prem. Mukti means a selfish, euphoric experience about me. That is not devotion. That is not Shuddha bhakti. That is devotion of a sort to me, very selfish. And we're so entrapped in this selfish mentality, we can't even perceive it practically. But by the power of Nam, we can break through that and we can begin to perceive my selfish nature. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj describes it's like the eyelid. You can't actually see the eyelid. It's so close to the eye, but you can't see it. So this selfish nature is so close to our material desires that we can't actually perceive it. But once we hear about these things, this is the point of sadhu sangha. Once we hear about these things, then we can take the microscope out in our own personal lives and examine how much am I on this material platform? How much am I self-seeking? How much am I trying to just exploit something from this material world? How far away am I from following the nature and moods of the gopis? But if I begin to hear about the natures and moods of the gopis more and more and more, that reality will purify the mind. Just I gave that example. Pouring something into the consciousness is going to replace the darkness of the consciousness, right? He remembers the power of Sri. I read all that. His main objective is to obtain mukti and not Krishna prem. The name that he utters is called Nam Abbas, and his emotional display, bhav, is called Bhav Abbas. Be fully aware of this. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was making a big, he's writing much about this. Another example is that of a person who worships Durga Devi in order to obtain material enjoyment. He prays, please give me benedictions, please give me wealth. Then thinking that Durga Devi will fulfill his heart's desire as soon as she becomes pleased, he exclaims, O Durga, and rolls on the ground before her, crying. This person's bhav, when he cries and falls on the ground, is not Shuddha bhav. It is sometimes described as bhav abas, and sometimes as false or impure emotion, kubhav. Bhav cannot arise unless one performs unadulterated worship of Krishna, Shuddha Krishna Bhajan. The bhav that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing is transcendental. It's beyond this boundary of material consciousness. It's a transcendental state of complete bliss in my service to Krishna. And the sadhak should be not thinking, oh, I want to achieve bhav bhakti. The sadhak should be thinking, I want to achieve service to Krishna. And if he happens to give me a taste or some bhav, that's okay, but that's not my goal. My goal is ahoitiki apratihata. It's unmotivated. It's not to get some paycheck of bhav, bliss. Otherwise, it's just going to become like a materialistic struggle, like a yogi wants to attain different stages. We're not like that. The bhakta simply wants to dedicate his life to Krishna only. And how beautiful is Krishna?
Maharaj, in previous classes, you were telling that the aim of sadhan bhakti is bhav bhakti.
Yes,
So
and
how do we reconcile these?
it is bhav bhakti, but that bhav bhakti should be the focus on pleasing Krishna. And then bhav can arise in the heart. But my objective is not just simply for bhav to arise in the heart. That's what I'm saying. My objective is to please Krishna first. If my objective is just for the bhav to rise, that's like the person waiting for his paycheck. Well, I've done the sadhana, now give me the bhav. No, that's obviously not correct. But still, it's a good question. Bhav is known as kubhav or bhav abhas if it arises from a desire for material enjoyment, bhoga, or liberation, moksha. Moksha and material enjoyment, same. Have that absolutely clear. On every single verse of the Falshruti, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's made this rock solid clear. Liberation and bhoga are the same. It's a material desire. So that's what I'm saying. If my objective is to attain the material desire of having the bliss of bhav, that is never going to transpire. I think these things are obvious.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. If it arises from a desire for material enjoyment, bhoga, or liberation, moksha, even if it is related to Krishna. So, how do you understand that? It's saying here, even if it is related to Krishna. We're putting Krishna there as an excuse
Second,
to achieve liberation.
secondary object.
Yes,
He
yes.
doesn't become the primary object.
It's like Aropsita Bhakti. Your heart doesn't really want pleasure to Krishna. Your heart really wants liberation. Your heart really wants your own pleasure. And it's completely understandable. As I've said many times, we're being pinched, we're being hurt, we're being poked by the material energy day and night, 24/7. It's pushing at us, pricking at us. The horrors of this material world are most uncomfortable for the conditioned soul. The environment, the weather, adhyatmic, adhidaivic, and adhibautic. Miseries caused by the mind, miseries caused by the elements, adhyatmic, adhidaivic, adhibautic. Yes, other people, so many miseries. So we want to get free from the misery. So naturally, and certainly when we first come to this path, our objective is to get free from the material energy because we don't know anything else. That's why we come to this path with the hope of liberation. But then gradually, as we hear more about the beauty, speciality of Krishna with his parikas, especially in Vrindavan, in Nandagan with the Gopas, etc., with Mother Yashoda, Nanda Baba, and all the different pastimes with the gopis, the extraordinary selfless attraction and love that the gopis have for Krishna is unsurpassed. And the more we absorb ourselves in those pastimes, particularly that's the 10th canto, then the more we get the picture of what is this transcendental love that I have the potential within me to attain. I have that potentiality within my heart to attain it, freed from this material engrossment of this body and all the different concepts there. It's a very wonderful, incredible goal to have. The word kubhav refers to any sort of bhav that may arise in the heart of one who is contaminated with Mayavad philosophy. Every time we see the word Mayavad, we should know what that means. Vad is someone who wants to propound the doctrine of Maya. If I want something from the illusory energy, anything, even a peanut, I am a Mayavad. If I only depend on Krishna like Madhavendra Puripad, he wouldn't even beg at the houses of anybody for his foodstuffs. He depended fully on Krishna. When Mahaprabhu went to Puri from Shantipur, when he took that renounced order after he'd been shaved up, etc., he went back to Advaitacharya's house. and they performed beautiful kirtan together. All the Navadvip Vasis came and stayed with him. And then he left. And Nityananda and Mukunda and Jagadananda and Damodar Pandit, they all came with him. And Mahaprabhu asked them, have you got anything with you? They're just about to go on a 500, how long? 600-mile walk to Jagannath Puri from Calcutta, 1,000 miles, something like that. He said, have you got anything with you? They all said immediately no. They hadn't got anything with them. What do we carry with us? Even for a few days in another place. They were more or less going for life. They had nothing except the power of dependence on Krishna. The absolute knowledge that Krishna will protect us and supply us with all our various necessities. This is real surrender. This is real dependence on the Lord. So, Mayavad, yes, I just wanted to express that. Contaminated with Mayavad philosophy. So, anyone who believes in some validity in the material energy is a Mayavad. Anything. Anything. Even if such a person lies unconscious for 7 praharas. 7 praharas is like most of the day. In one day, there's 8 praharas. So 7 praharas is
3 hours.
about 12, about 17, 18 hours. Prahara,
3 hours, right?
3 hours. So 3,
Into 8
21.
is
So 21 hours. 21 hours, he's showing, exhibiting a mood of bhav bhakti. This Bhaktivinoda Thakur is still bogus. It's still bogus if they have a Mayavad intention. He's saying it strongly because Bhaktivinoda Thakur is from this land of Bengal. Bengal is full of cheats. They're full of Durga worshippers, etc. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur was here, he was lamenting how big was the Durga puja. And it's the same now. It's full of tantrics and it's full of Durga puja worshippers. And they will cheat you for honor. Remember the story of the snake charmer. He was playing his flute and Haridas Thakur was walking by. And Haridas Thakur heard the flute and went into complete ecstasy and was dancing in an ecstatic trance. And all the people, hundreds of people who were watching the snake charmer, immediately honored Haridas Thakur because they could see these pure symptoms of bhav. And another man thought, oh, that's a good idea. Next time he plays his flute, I'll do the same thing. So he does that. And what do all the people do? They beat him with sticks because they can understand he's not on the same platform. They could see very quickly that this is an imitation. What's the point of imitating something materially? You're just getting more materially immersed. This display cannot be called bhav, aho. Even the most elevated liberated souls who are freed from all kinds of desires incessantly search out Bhagavat Rati. It is the supreme secret, and Krishna does not easily bestow it, even on completely sincere bhaktas whose practice of bhajan is fully accomplished. It's very, very rare. So it's not just in the common marketplace if someone is rolling around on the ground. My Gurudev used to go into states of bhav, but he would always, every single time, repress it. Every single time he would contain himself deliberately. Sometimes it manifested very strongly, especially on his Gurudev's disappearance day. He wouldn't be able to speak, his voice would choke up. But in many occasions, I've seen my Gurudev speak, and all of a sudden it just comes from sort of like left field, bang into him. We could see it was like something was, a mood was coming to him, and he would just be stunned for a moment. But then he would realize that he was on a mission trying to preach these precepts to the conditioned souls. And it's not part of that mission to display your inner feelings. Those inner feelings, just like the whole practice of Raganuga Bhakti, is for our own development, not for the public arena. So my Gurudev would control it. And Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada had the same. Sometimes he also would be so stunned, he'd be singing Jai Radha Madhava, then suddenly he would stop and he couldn't sing anymore. He'd indicate someone to carry on because he became so immersed in the consciousness of Radha and Madhav meeting on the banks of Jamuna. and Yashoda and the gopis, everyone, the whole Vrindavan picture, and he become totally immersed in it. But their objective was not to display these ever, and our objective must be the same. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was really stressing on this point. Um, and Krishna does not easily bestow it even on completely sincere bhaktas whose practice of bhajan is fully accomplished. How then can it arise in the hearts of those who do not have Shuddha Bhakti and who are contaminated with the desires for material enjoyment and liberation? How can it possibly manifest there? It can't. Brajanath, Prabhu, it is often observed that when those who desire material enjoyment and liberation perform Harinam Sankirtan, they manifest bodily symptoms of bhav that you have described. How is this to be understood? Let me just read that again. Prabhu, it is often observed that when those who desire material enjoyment and liberation perform Harinam Sankirtan, they manifest the bodily symptoms of bhav that you have described. How is this to be understood? Understand the question?
Mm.
Like Harinam Bhajan, Sankirtan. Only foolish people are astonished to see the external symptoms of bhav in such people. Those who understand bhav tattva properly call this sort of bhav the semblance of bhav, the semblance of rati abhas, and they remain far away from it. We have to be cautious from this. Now, Vijay, how many kinds of Ratyabhas are there? We'll discuss this tomorrow. So there's going to be two types. There's Pratibimba. Basically, we should know these two terminologies very well. Pratibimba
Right.
means reflection, and Chaya means shadow. The shadow is connected to the object. So Chaya is not as bad as Pratibimba. Pratibimba is a reflected
Independent.
impression. It's not actually connecting with the self, whereas Chaya is. But
We have
both,
it in Bhakti Tattva.
yes,
Yes.
this is, you have Pratibimba Nam and you have Chaya Namabhas. So we have this, and now we're having this in the relative to Bhav Bhakti, Pratibimba and Chaya, the same terminologies. That's why we must know these terminologies very well. There's a nice diagram. You've got a tree on the bank of a lake, and the tree is reflected in the glass of the lake. That is Pratibimba. And then the shadow of the tree is Chaya. And we can see clearly from this example that the reflection is not connected to the tree. It's a reflection. It's definitely inferior. But the Chaya is connected. So we can consider these terminologies, and we'll discuss tomorrow about Bhav Pratibimba and Bhav Chaya Abhas. So I hope you learned something today about Bhav Bhakti. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo, Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhaveva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha.